What is up, everybody? This is the first video recorded podcast of the thinking market, and I'm excited to talk today about the case for optimism. And I was also thinking that, maybe if these podcasts are good and academic enough, then they can become like a research paper, something potentially I can write about more and extensively, maybe get published, maybe give academic lectures on. So hopefully they don't get too boring, but I do want to try to kill two stones with one bird with what I'm doing here with the podcast. Um, so what is the case for optimism? What is optimism? I think the etymology of it is French or Latin, and it means optimus, which means best. So this is like I guess, a metaphysical concept of the best possibility for something. But I think we have to be specific in what we're optimistic about, right? Because as values are subjective, then the outcome of something may be something I desire, but not something somebody else desires. For example, I want to make the optimistic case for freedom, peace, and truth. That may necessitate the end of propaganda, war, and exploitation, or, enslavement, theoretically. So if someone profits off that and desires that, then depending on what outcome we obtain may be beneficial for me but not beneficial for someone else. So I'm not making an objective value normative claim about, what optimism is, for example. But that's being a little bit pedantic. I'm making the optimistic case, for freedom, peace, and truth. I'm not making a political optimistic case. I don't think you can have political solutions to political problems. And I find democracy or politics to be a problem of society, of politics. So I guess before we give the case for optimism, it would be important to kind of give some reasons why optimism is needed as a description of what the current state of affairs is. Currently, and I think maybe most importantly, we have an issue with money, how money's produced, how it's utilized, what it's funding, and it funds wars. So we have a problem with a warfare welfare state that I think if we can analyze, then we don't have to leave it to some will of God or some metaphysical concept. As Mises says, inflation is a man-made policy. It's not an act of God. So inflation that we experience in society doesn't have to be this way. This is a choice by certain people in certain institutions. It's politicized money. It's politics. Politics is turning friends into enemies. That's what the politicization of society is. The market environment, Cadillac-y, is turning enemies into friends. People who have nothing in common with you, yet still being able to communicate, to exchange, to have a peaceful exchange market society environment with others. Politics is forced collectivism, and that's what breeds resentment. It's especially in democracy with 4-year terms. It's saying who's going to rule over who? Whose rules are we going to impose over other people for the next 4 years? This is very archaic. It's very primitive. I like to mention Rousseau, the most fanatic advocate of democracy, saying that democracy is nothing more than a mild form of communism. So if communism, forced collectivism, the idea that we're all in this together, who is all and why are we in this together and what are we in? um, like in the Soviet Union under under Stalin, when he first became like the general, I forget what the general minister or whatever the technical term of his position was, he just declared like we're gonna increase the economic production by 20%. And then when that didn't happen, he he called like the economic technical engineers into like a court and pretty much accused them of treason and sabotage for why the Soviet Union wasn't producing at 20% every year. So the whole point is that like there is a logic to it. Yeah, like this is our goal. This is what we want to do. Why is it not doing that? But the common sense is not blaming the people. The common sense is blaming the system and the machine you're putting these people into. And it's like, well, it must be a fault of the people, not of the machine. So this machine of bureaucracy, of politicization of society, of forced collectivism, goes against the voluntary opportunities that people can create to form solutions, which is the market creative environment, the dynamic process of society. So I'm not going to give you an optimistic case for politics or democracy. That would be, come on, that would be ridiculous. But I guess, yeah, some people would be like confused about that, but that's okay. We're just not going to go there right now. So this is the case, the current state of affairs. We have fiat money that's funding the welfare warfare state. We have, many societal issues like education. I think the average adult person in this country has the reading level of a sixth grader. So we're not really studying Virgil or Augustine or Aquinas in this country much. And the bureaucracy, inflation, which is part of money, politicization, which is a part of politics, and the money funds the politics. We're not really funded via taxes anymore. We're funded via the printing press and printing money. So these are some of the current problems. Now you have other problems, be it, the medical industry, socialized medicine. You have educate. Okay, so basically, education is like part of public slavery because it's day prisons for children and controls their minds of what they're taught. And this is like the battle of institutions. The mind is beautiful. The mind is the most unique and elegant part of a person. But through homogenized public education, what happened in like 19th century France and Prussia, and then in this country, the US, is that they made it they separated the church, which allowed it to be more like not only atheistic, but nationalistic. They made it free and they made it compulsory. So they forced people into this institution. And this homogenizing process was primarily for building like obedient and loyal soldiers that would obey the state. Like the whole Napoleonic idea was like, if you serve the Napoleon, you're serving God himself. And that like there was the militarized spirit, which was distinct from the war spirit. Like the warring spirit was, not something to be like well respected or honored, but the military spirit, like that's honorable. That's a duty. That's your duty to God, is to serve your nation, to even give your life for the nation. Wow. So virtuous. But it's for obedience because they need soldiers. So they control your mind through education. They control via socialized medicine your body, which is another form of public slavery, another part to it, choosing when, what kind of care you get, when you live, when you die, and then controlling money. That controls your energy, no matter how hard you work, even if like minimum wage is raised, that's the nominal wage. The real wage is what you can actually buy, wealth, accumulation. That gets undermined via the printing press. If you're, going at this rate of an increasing level of income, but the production of money and printing it is increasing at a faster rate, then that's what inflation is, an increase in the money supply. So each monetary unit is less in value. So purchasing power is decreased. It takes this more amount units of a medium of exchange to buy the same amount of goods. So it doesn't matter what you raise the minimum wage at. That's only a nominal wage. If the money supply is increasing at a faster rate, then your real wage in proportion to the money supply is decreasing. So this comes from the monopoly of the production of money. And that's what the state is a monopolist on production of money, police, militarization, security, courts, even education. Obviously, we have some like private security and some private courts which operate more effectively, but we should have more of that. These are regulated markets, heavily regulated markets, even the insurance companies. I think, I'm not super well researched on it, but I think the insurance companies, like there's only like 3 or 4 health insurance companies you could have in a state as options, and you can't have like interstate insurance. It has to be like intrastate. This is not a free market. Now I guess these are the problems we have today. So what this is like the servile state or state servitude. And I think one can be pessimistic about this. Even like last December with the whole Ukraine and Russia thing, I was very anxious and concerned about all the war going on and the potential level of severity. So we have these people who want war because they make money off of it. And so they're optimistic about continuing that. So let me be their pessimist by being my own optimist, by being their pessimist. To say that I will make the argument, the case for optimism, that this isn't inevitable and it is not going to be indefinite. Essentially, it all boils down to ideas. Ideas are the basis of all human action. So if we can change ideas, we can change human action. And as society, in the methodological individualist sense, is composed of individuals, they're just, societies are groups of individual people, then if people act in certain ways, this is the basis of culture, socio-cultural phenomena of why people do what they do, how they do it. So it begins with ideas in education and learning. Like, even if you're not going to educate others, you can educate yourself. And you can live differently. You can live freely if that's what you value. You can live in a servile manner if that's what you value. I'm not making an objective normative claim of how you should live. But for people who do value freedom, peace, and truth, then, as Mises said, the hardest thing is to think correctly, the most difficult thing. So to do that, we have to just continuously think over and over about problems at hand and asking why in order to find root causes, root problems, and foundational solutions to these things. With money, we end the Federal Reserve. We repeal legal tender laws. We have markets for money, markets for banking. Then you have free markets for media of exchange. And when you have that, then people will choose what money they want to use. The market, the people, by loan banking and deposit banking and other forms of banking that may emerge, will determine what the interest rate is, which is the price of money, which is the most important price, because it really affects people's forced savings and spending, which affects their time preference. If you artificially lower interest rates, then you're encouraging people to spend more and save less, and this leads to like higher time preference scenarios. And then you have the boom bust cycle, the recession, which obviously massive layoffs and reformations of the economy and capital goods. The Great Depression was depressive. People starved, people died, people were hungry, people lost homes. So that comes from state production of money and state involvement in banking and interest rates. So the solution is the separation of state and money. We had separation of religion and state, and I think like a lot of leftists champion that. So why not encourage the separation of state and money? If it's causing inflation, if it's causing depressions, the Great Depression, and suicide and anxiety and mental health phenomena, then look at monetary policy. I really think this is a great argument for both people on the left and right. It creates no net benefit to society. It only benefits those who are closest to it, which are investment bankers, politicians, friends of the banks. And then it funds wars. So 1 in 4 veterans are committing suicide. We don't need wars. Wars actually can end. This is politics. It's power. It's for central bankers to their benefit. I think we really can't live in a world without wars. I think that's a phenomena of statism, of the nation state. I made that argument many times. But my empathy doesn't stop at the border. I have friends in every single country. I don't want anything to happen to any country. No bombs. We don't need them. The market process is diplomacy, is real diplomacy. It's real solution. It's real peace. You can't just via fiat diplomacy say like, oh, we're going to have peace. Like, this is like forced collectivism. You really can't have political solutions to political problems. It's like, that's what caused the issue in the first place. So, okay. That is my case for optimism, for money, that, yeah, we just have more evolutions of money. We don't stop with this paper fiat currency. Or worse, like central bank digital currencies. We just let money evolve and have markets for it. Maybe it's Bitcoin, maybe it's other cryptos, and let it evolve further. Maybe it's the valuing system, theorized by Edwin Regal, and so on and so forth. Wars, we can have peace. I mean, we have more in the post-technological digital revolution today, more communication internationally, email, text message, phone calls, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Like, the lines of communication are open. It seems like it's really only politicians who are the ones who don't want to communicate, don't want to find peace treaties and solutions. Why? Because of the money. The money is politicized. They're making a shit ton of money off the military-industrial complex, $5, $6, $9 trillion. Weapon contracts, military contracts, building cities, destroying cities, rebuilding cities, funding young terrorist groups, funding their enemies, funding both sides. This is ridiculous, and that's the point. It's so ridiculous. I think once you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. So like, then I think like, really, the case for optimism is the case for like peace. First, internally, that you have peace. You see what's going on. People can say whatever they want, but you don't have to believe it. You can find out the truth for yourself. And then you can see peace in society. We don't need violence. We're not like, I was conversating with someone the other day and they're like, yeah, we're like, we're gone. We're too far gone. Like, it's just violence is inevitable. To me, that's nihilism. I think that's giving into evil of thinking that, like, yeah, like there's no other path out. Like, peace is not on the table anymore as an option. To me, that's ridiculous. And that's nihilism. That's what I want to wage war against and make this case for optimism, that it's for the human spirit. It's for your mind. It's for your own internal peace. I think you can't have this feeling of like we're too far gone and give up on society and have peace internally. I think that's like existential, indefinite dread and anxiety. And I don't think we need that. I don't think that's true. I think we are actually like at the cusp of the next major revolution for human freedom, which is going to be a monetary revolution, and it can be peaceful. Look at the Velvet Revolution. Revolutions aren't violent, always. They don't need to be. They can be peaceful. But that's an ideological revolution that precedes this. So we can't live in a peaceful, abundant world. The only thing that's really stopping us is ourselves and our ideas, the tyrants in our mind. And I think the more we just confront ourselves, question ourselves, then we'll begin to have better ideas about the world around us. And to conclude with a quote from Krishnamurti, he said, "Be a light for yourself, and then you can be a light for the world." So, thank you very much.